over the weekend, a top of 22 on Saturday and 21 on Sunday, and a possible shower Monday, 23. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Call 5AA now to Talk Adelaide. 8223 0000. This is Peter Godfrey.
Good morning, 5 minutes past 5. We've had a warm night. Temperature's starting to sneak back up again. The low, 4:30, not that long ago, was 23 degrees. We're up to 27 now. With a stinker coming up, 38 degrees. But Friday, well, something completely different, of course. Much cooler. Let's head to New Zealand. Might be cooler there. Selwyn Manning, across the ditch from livenews.co.nz. How are you this morning?
Oh, not too bad, Peter. In comparison, we've got our winter woolies on over this side of the ditch.
Oh, you're shivering over there, are you?
Oh, it's cold. Absolutely cold. These southerlies, it's like about 3 weeks of southerlies now, southwesterly southerlies, and it's just like going back to August. It really is. The temperatures struggle to get over 18 degrees.
Wow.
This is in the Auckland area.
Yeah, there'll be many people listening to you right now going, can we come over?
It'd be like camping out in a great big aircon, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Oh, well.
But, it's certainly, it's got everybody up here, this is the Auckland area, I'm talking about. Further down on the east coast, Napier, the Hawke's Bay region, it's as warm as toast most days. Certainly parts of the South Island, like around the Canterbury, Christchurch area, they're having really good warm days and things like that. Certainly there's a variation like you guys are getting. One day will be warm in the mid-20s, so it's a big difference to what you guys are experiencing. But the next day it'll be down in the teens. But up here in Auckland, it's really struggling to get over the 20s for a long time now. And usually, we'll be pushing 24 degrees by now.
Are you a fan of the warmer weather or the cooler weather yourself?
Well, I like the warmer weather. Definitely you feel some warmth in your bones. It makes it a good break from the winter chills here. And certainly, up here we don't get snow. We just get rain in the winter. And so, when by the time spring comes around, you think, oh, this will be great. But I think, the rest of the country will be able to spot an Aucklander a mile away because we'll look pasty as if we've come out of it. Haven't seen the sun for a year, which is just about literally.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to some news from your part of your world. Firstly, quite an embarrassing situation for your corrections department, police, internal affairs, various government ministers. Tell us what has happened. This is pretty serious too.
Yeah, it's very serious. New Zealanders over here, Peter, the whole country's basically shocked and left wondering how a convicted murderer and paedophile was able to obtain a passport in his birth name, catch a taxi to Auckland International Airport, board an aircraft for Chile. He arrived there, then decided to get another aircraft and boarded another aircraft for Brazil, and then basically disappeared into Brazil.
Done a runner.
And it sounds like something out of some far-fetched novel, I guess, when you hear this for the first time. But unfortunately, this is fact, and this occurred last Thursday when we last talked to you, on November the 6th. Now, the guy's name, the escapee here, his name is Philip John Smith, and he was serving a life sentence for the murder in 1995 of the father of one of his victims. Now, the initial victim was a young boy who was being sexually violated by Smith, and that family, they sought the safety of another location because these two were neighbours. And this guy, Philip Smith, stalked them down, found them, broke into the house and stabbed the father to death. And that crime happened in 1995. Now, Smith was convicted of that murder and also the sex crimes and was serving a life sentence for those crimes since 1995. Now, the Corrections Department has been working in over the last year, but in the last 6 months in particular, the Corrections Department's been working on slowly integrating Philip Smith back into the community. Now, his life sentence back in 1995 stipulated a minimum parole period of 13 years. Now, of course, that's over that now. It's 18 years since he's been in prison, if not a little bit more by my math. And so they've been considering his parole, but turning him down on parole, but slowly testing how he is coping and how he is acting as he goes into the community. And what they're talking about there is basically occasionally he will be let out at first for 12 hours and he'll have sponsors that he'll go and that he'll be with them and under strict conditions. Then it would lengthen out to 24 hours where he's given leave from prison back into the community where he'd be able to visit things, go out for dinner, etc., etc. And most recently, 72 hours. And it was on the 72-hour stint when he was released for his, integration into the community trials, that Philip Smith caught a taxi to the airport, passed through New Zealand Customs border control and made for South America.
And no one picked him up going through that process?
No, only the CCTV cameras, picked him up and passing through and with a very strange haircut.
Okay. So how was he able to not be picked up? Through, checking his passport or anything like that? So what happened there?
Yeah, he'd obtained his passport after realising that his criminal offending record was listed under his adopted surname Smith. So all of his criminal record and his convictions under Philip Smith.
Right.
And his birth name was Trainer.
Oh.
And there was some real major issue here where Internal Affairs did not pick up and did not cross-reference. And he was able to obtain a clean passport in his birth name of Philip John Trainer. He applied for that passport and it was approved and issued. Now, there are still question marks about how it was, we understand it was a manually applied for passport, which means that somebody would have had to have, with another New Zealand passport, would have had to have endorsed it, etc. And also, where did they post the passport to? One would imagine they wouldn't have sent it to the prison.
Yeah, you would have hoped that if it was addressed that way, that they would have realised something was up. Wow,
exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions.
So the assumption is there was some help from outside, I guess.
Help from outside. It seems that the probabilities of that are extremely high. Since arriving in South America, Philip Smith contacted his lawyer.
Yeah.
He also contacted Radio New Zealand, describing how he came up with a plan to escape and leave the country after he realised it was unlikely he would ever be granted parole. And that's what he states was the beginnings of him planning on how he would get out of the country.
Okay.
The escape, of course, Peter, as you'd imagine, has embarrassed the community, the Corrections Department, the police, the Internal Affairs, various government ministers. One in particular is a new minister, Sam Lotuinga. He's the new Minister for Corrections, and he was basically absent without leave for a couple of days on this. The media were finding it very difficult to track him down in his office. Apparently, he was running around like, in disarray. But anyway, that aside, there has been high-powered meetings of all the tops of those departments and ministries, the police, Internal Affairs, etc., trying to actually figure out really what's gone on. There's an investigation into it, of course, and Interpol and New Zealand police have issued an arrest warrant. Well, Interpol in specific terms has arrested an arrest warrant for Smith, and a New Zealand cop has arrived in Brazil to liaise with Brazilian authorities in an attempt to give weight to the international manhunt.
Okay, so
what they're saying.
His exact whereabouts in Brazil aren't known then?
No, he has said through his lawyer he is going to issue a press statement today. Those who have known Smith believe that he enjoys the limelight and is certainly using that at the moment.
What a charming character. So was in contacting Radio New Zealand, was it a bit of gloating on his part then, if he likes the limelight? Is that kind of what that was about, do you know?
It seems like he was, this was via email.
Okay, right.
An email kind of communication there, and it seemed like he was putting his case forward.
Oh, okay.
And sounding, from his point of view, quite reasonable in his thing. And he also indicated that from him, he stated that he poses no threat to his previous victims and apologises for any stress that they may have in him escaping. And there's been focus and an exclusive interview with John Campbell and his child victim, who's now an adult with his own family, last night. That's on the 3 News Network and Campbell Live program, and the person is basically in hiding and has been in hiding, living in Australia this is one of the victims, through fear that should Philip Smith be released, then he would seek them out again and cause havoc with their family. So they're terrified, to put it bluntly.
You can understand that, yeah. Wow, what a sad state of affairs when something like this happens through clearly some oversight. So we'll just have a quick break, and then we got sort of related to that, a bit of a foot in mouth from your Prime Minister too. Yes. Well, we'll hear about that in a moment. Just be back with you in just a moment. Selwyn Manning's with us from New Zealand, from livenews.co.nz.
Leon Biner.
That story we got a few minutes ago about people going to their service SA, waiting in line, getting to the counter. Oh, here is my medical certificate, just to ensure that I've dotted the I's and crossed the T's to make sure I can keep my licence. Oh, no, sir. We can't accept those over the counter. You have to send them in. But they bloody lost them when they were sent in.
Leon Biner, weekday mornings from 9 on 1395, Adelaide's 5AA.
Attention shoppers! Now in the cereal aisle, every box of Coles brand Mighty Grain cereal is just $3.50 every day.
Did she say every box, every day?
That's right, every box, every brekkie. $3.50 every day at Coles.
Dave Potter Honda.
Get this. In Dave Potter Honda's free-for-all end-of-year clearance, get end-of-year bonuses ranging from free registration, free 5-year warranty and roadside assistance, plus free accessory packs. And if that's not enough, every new or demo Honda you buy at Dave Potter Honda between now and the end of the year gives you the chance to win a brand new Honda Jazz, but only at SA's #1 and most awarded Honda dealer. Dave Potter Honda, Brighton Road, Glenelg South.
Here's how you can make your outdoor summer entertaining area a year-round entertaining area with help from Shade Tech. Shade Tech can fit you out with superior quality outdoor blinds and awnings, which keeps your outdoor area cooler in summer and warmer in winter. From shade umbrellas to folding arm roof awnings, manual or motorised, Shade Tech has what you need. And no middleman means big savings. So enjoy the great outdoors year-round. Call 8283 3477 or visit shadetech.net.au.
Beaumont Tiles,
a family-owned Aussie company,
are celebrating 100 outlets Australia-wide.
Their huge buying power means great everyday prices on stunning tiles and bathroom wear.
And right now, your present is a $100 gift card to spend on your next purchase.
Thanks, Beaumonts. Terms and conditions apply.
If you want value, range and choice, you want the largest independent supermarket in all of South Australia. You want Manopara Foodland. Manopara Foodland has everything you could ever want. They're committed to supporting local Australian growers, and when you buy Aussie grown, you're buying absolute freshness. The only thing better than the range is the friendly service. If you can't find what you're looking for, just ask. Value, range and choice in South Australia's largest independent supermarket, Manopara Foodland. Main North Road, Smithfield, open 7 days.
Talking Adelaide with Peter Godfrey on 1395 5AA.
And Selwyn Manning from livenews.co.nz is with us with some news from across the ditch. Now, Selwyn, just following on from that, this Philip Smith that managed to sneak out of the country despite having serious convictions against him. Your Prime Minister putting his foot in his mouth regarding that whilst attending the APEC meetings.
Yeah, that's right. All the serious business of APEC, the TPPA, the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations that are going on over there at the moment, all been discussed in Beijing. And while, we're watching it over this side of the ditch too, Tony Abbott getting semi-staunch with Vladimir Putin.
The body language was noted with that.
He didn't quite do that big, what do you call it?
Shirt front.
Yeah, didn't quite happen, but it certainly looked like he was trying to get his message across.
Yeah.
New Zealand's Prime Minister, John Key, forced to apologise, Peter, for making a laugh-out-loud, on-the-record joke to reporters about murderer Philip John Smith's escape and international manhunt. Now, what happened here is, in Beijing for the APEC summit, Key laughed loudly while telling reporters at a press conference he would alert Chilean President Michelle Bachelet that Kiwi murderer Philip Smith had arrived in her country. Now, this happened on Monday, and this was at the point where New Zealand authorities realised that he had travelled to Brazil. To Chile first off. From Chile, he then caught a flight to Brazil, but that wasn't known at that stage, so it was believed that he was still in Chile. And Key said, and this is the quote, Peter, he enters into this quote laughing and exits laughing all about this. typical comedy routine. And quote here, "I'll just let her know there's someone who could be out there from New Zealand that you may not want to invite around for lunch." And then, followed with laughter, etc., etc. Now, the poor taste joke was followed, like I say, with the laughter. It seems that the Prime Minister, and this is the accusations that came through from his opponents here in New Zealand, but also the newspapers in particular, and the public seem to have been appalled, and it just seems that the Prime Minister does not know when to shed that clown persona and slip into his straight man character. It is really, in some ways, an embarrassment for the way he acts on such things, particularly when he's overseas.
And this was at a press conference that he knew was on the record. It wasn't like just a quiet joke, what he thought was a joke privately. This was actually on record.
Yeah,
TV crews and media's there.
Press conference. All the New Zealand media and international media that wanted to get his take on the TPPA, and this issue comes up of a very serious security breach here in New Zealand of a convicted murderer who is still doing time in prison, acquires himself a passport in his own birth name, catches a taxi to Auckland International Airport, makes for Chile, then gets another aircraft across the border into Brazil, and then disappears. And the Prime Minister has a bit of a joke about that. Now, the Prime Minister has, as he says, unreservedly apologised for his poor taste joke. And then conditions it was he didn't understand the nature of the question that was put to him, which, seems pretty difficult to actually accept, really. But there's an unconditional apology with a condition tagged on the end, and this is our wonderful Prime Minister on such things, Peter.
There we go. Interesting. All right, one more thing. Now, last week we heard about AC/DC drummer Phil Rudd with charges about hiring a hitman, but that's all been dropped. What happened there?
Yeah, well, while we're talking about authorities making huge mistakes, this one falls in. It's an important note, really, that New Zealand police here, they had to drop the alleged murder by procurement charge against AC/DC drummer Phil Rudd. That occurred, Peter, very shortly, the next day, like Friday, last week, and late in the day, and that was after the Crown prosecutor reviewed the case.
So we're just getting a bit of a hum. Oh, sorry, it's gone. We're just getting a bit of a hum there on the line, but no, it's all right. It's gone. Sorry, continue on.
So that murder by procurement charge against AC/DC drummer Phil Rudd, it was dropped after the Crown prosecutor reviewed the case and found a prima facie case was not in evidence. So there's an absolute. And the indications are that Phil Rudd is going to actually seek some sort of recourse and compensation for this. And of course, it's been, paraded all around the world, standing there dishevelled, I think, without his teeth and no shoes.
We saw those photos.
So he's on bail still on the charges of threatening to kill, and still on bail on possession of methamphetamine and also cannabis charges. Those are pending, and we'll see what happens with those.
Yeah, indeed. Interesting times there in New Zealand. One other question. I had a question for you just earlier. One of our regular callers, Ted, who likes the horses a bit, was watching, I think it was a fairly big trots meeting you had over there earlier in the week. Tuesday, wasn't it? He said huge crowds there. Wondered whether, was it a public holiday in New Zealand?
No. It wasn't a public holiday, but it was the big cup held down at Addington Raceway. It's a big shebang down there, and it's not considered anywhere near as big as the Melbourne Cup is over here. Right. Melbourne Cup is almost as popular as it is in Australia, I think. Here. Basically the country stops around that time. But no, not a public holiday, but certainly, the Cantabrians, those around the Christchurch area, they celebrate it very much, and, trotting is big down there. It's also, too, a part of the city getting back to normal after the earthquakes. Remember, it's still being rebuilding process is still going on, and celebrating these traditions down there is becoming huge. Like the Royal Theatre was a big feature on television last night, and this is a grand old theatre from the turn of from 1908, I think it was built, and they were able to get this wonderful dome, with all the paintings. What do you call them? The dome back up and things like that. So Christchurch is celebrating these old traditional things, and certainly, that's what your listener would have
That's what he would have seen.
witnessing.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, he said he was just, surprised. There's a huge number of people there, and it seems anytime he does see races or trots from New Zealand, a lot of people there. It's obviously very popular.
Yeah.
You like your horses.
Yeah, I mean, like Aussie, the old saying was that it was New Zealand culture was rugby, racing, and beer.
Yeah.
Now it's expanded out a little bit more than that in recent, in the last few decades. But certainly in the 2000s, the numbers at the tracks were dropping right off, and I understand that they're creeping back up. But there's a lot of a lot of people watching very closely too, Peter, at the safety standards at both harness racing, meaning the trots and the paces, and gallops and the dogs. And the industry is very sensitive, just like, obviously there was a lot of this in the wake of the deaths at the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue here too.
Yeah, there we go. All right, Selwyn, well, thank you for joining us this morning on the program. Stay warm there in that chilly welly you got in Auckland, and we'll catch you next week.
Okay, Peter, take care.
All the best. Bye-bye. Selwyn Manning in Auckland, livenews.co.nz for more, 5:26.
Graham Corns, stud. Graham Studley Corns. Our mate, the stud.
Graham Corns, the former Crows coach and Australian Football Hall of Famer, joins the 5AA Sports Show each week with his hard-hitting thoughts. Don't miss Cornsey as he takes a swing every Friday night on the 5AA Sports Show. Who listens and builds your dream? Beechwood Homes. Go to mybeechwooddream.com.au. $13.95. Adelaide's 5AA.
Local cafes do it better because they do things just the way you like them. Skinny decaf mocha with one sweetener, thanks. And there's some great local cafes on truelocal.com.au. They're easy to find, and on True Local you can read reviews and see what other locals have to say about them. Because you can't beat local word of mouth. So if you're looking for a cafe near you, look no further than truelocal.com.au. Because locals do it better.
There's never been a better time to switch to Solar Hut Solar Hot Water or solar power. Switch now and you'll not only enjoy energy free from the sun, you'll also get up to 40 months interest free. Plus, you'll still get up to $2,000 in government incentives with any Solar Hut Solar Hot Water solar power combo. But hurry, our 40 months interest free offer must end soon. Go to solarhut.com.au for details. Terms, conditions, fees, charges and lending criteria apply.
We may not get a white